teacher at the National Taiwan University Hospital and a professor at the National Taiwan University College of Medicine, and then switched to politics, running as an independent and winning the 2014 Taipei mayoral election, and again in 2018. He founded the Taiwan People's Party in 2019 and formally announced recently he would run in January's presidential election. He styles himself and his party as a third political force between the ruling Democratic Progressive Party of Tsai Ing-wen and the main opposition Kuomintang. Recent polls show that Ko has been picking up support in recent months in a presidential race that looks to be wide open. So we could today be talking with Taiwan's next president. Today, Ko will talk about Taiwan's place in the world and his plans for Taiwan should he get the top job. And as I can see, we have a lot of cameras and Taiwanese media here today, so we can expect some interesting questions. So anyway, without further ado, we'll let Mr. Ko speak for about 10 minutes or so with interpretation by Mariana here, and then we'll open the floor to questions and answers. Okay, floor is yours.
Okay. 日本外国特派员协会的各位会员以及现场的媒体记者，大家好，我是2024年中华民国总统候选人柯文哲。距离上一次来日本已经4年了，这一次非常荣幸有这个机会来这个地方演讲，感到十分荣幸。
Hello to all members from our Japan Foreign Correspondents Association and also our reporters here. I am a presidential candidate of the Republic of China in 2024, Ko Wen-je. And it's been already 4 years since my last visit to Japan, and I'm very much honored to be able to give a speech to all of you here at FCCJ today.
2013年，中国开始“一带一路”计划。2018年，美国总统川普开启了美中贸易大战，从此国际局势遭到了剧烈的冲击，地缘政治也开始成为世界各国关注讨论的议题。其中，台湾与中国大陆之间的互动，以及海峡两岸的和平，更是洞见观瞻。海峡两岸的和平，对于维系印太地区以及世界的和平都相当重要。
In 2013, China has started the Belt and the Road Initiative, and in 2018, Donald Trump has started the U.S.-China trade war. Since then, we were seeing the international situations becoming under severe impact. Geopolitics has become a topic of much concern and triggering discussions around the world. And the interactions between Taiwan and mainland China and the peace across the Taiwan Strait is a matter of very much concern.
为了确保台湾海峡两岸的和平，台湾应当是美中沟通的桥梁，不应当是美中对抗的棋子。台湾应当是一个团结和谐的国家，不应当是一个分裂斗争的国家。台湾应当是美丽之岛福尔摩沙，而不是如外国媒体所称世界最危险的地方。台湾应该由清廉、勤政、爱民、爱乡土的政府来带领人民，而不是口号治国、大傻逼、再留子孙、制造仇恨分裂的政府来带领人民。
And the peace across the strait is bringing great value to maintenance of peace in the Indo-Pacific region and the world as well. In order to ensure that this peace across the strait will be in place, Taiwan should be a bridge of communication, channeling the communication dialogues between U.S. and China, and not being a chess piece played around in the U.S.-China confrontation. And Taiwan should be a united and harmonious country instead of a country of division and struggles. Taiwan should be called the beautiful island of Formosa, not being called by some foreign media as the most dangerous place on earth. Taiwan should be led by a very diligent, of high integrity, the government who cares for its people and also the land and its culture. Not a country to be ruled by just slogans on the mouth and spending big money and leaving debts to the future generations or creating hatred and division across.
今天我想以台湾新政治为题目，来跟各位谈谈 台湾如同19世纪日本的明治维新，让台湾进行文化与价值上的改变，成为一个进步的海洋民主国家。
Today, I want to speak to you on this topic about how Taiwan should change and evolve into its new political system. And I would like to talk about how Taiwan could do it similar as to what Japan used to have in its Meiji restoration or the Meiji renewal back in the 19th century, allowing Taiwan to have its changes both in culturally and also in the value it holds to become a more progressive and maritime democratic country.
1624年，荷兰人为了建立在远东贸易的据点，来到了台湾，将台湾带进了世界的视野之中。400年来，多个国家的文明与族群在这片土地上竞争与交流，为台湾创造了多元、坚韧、包容的文明。
In 1624, the Netherlands came to Taiwan to establish a foothold in their Far East trade, bringing Taiwan into the world's perspective. Over the past 400 years, multiple civilization and ethnic groups have competed and exchanged their views over this land, creating a very diverse, resilient, and a well-harmonized civilization.
我在2019年创建了台湾民众党，目的就是希望自由、民主、多元、开放、法治、人权、关怀弱势、永续经营的普世价值可以在台湾实现。
My goal when I founded the Taiwan People's Party in 2019 is to make sure that we can have these universal values being upheld by all Taiwanese people to be made into reality, including having freedom, democracy, diversity, and having open-mindedness, justice, and the human rights. And we care for the underprivileged, meaning we care about charity, and also to have sustainability put into practice.
我认为，只要生活在台湾这片土地上面，认同台湾就是台湾人，然后透过普世价值凝聚国民意识，让国民团结彼此，建立共同社会。
I believe as long as one lives in the land of Taiwan and identifies himself or herself as a Taiwanese, one could be identified so. Through the universal values that we share, we can unite the people in Taiwan and we can build an inclusive society.
一个国家如果要长治久安，必须正本清源，源头就是政治文化。
If one country wants to enjoy stability and peace for a long time under good governance, it must get to the roots of the problem, and the source of all problems is based on the political culture.
我在2014年竞选台北市长时，我的竞选口号就是改变台湾从首都开始，改变台北从文化开始。这是一场改变政治文化的社会运动。
When I announced my candidacy for Taipei City Mayor in 2014, my campaign slogan was, "Let's change Taiwan starting from its capital in Taipei." And when we want to change Taipei, let's change it starting from the culture. And this is going to be a social movement changing the culture, or the political culture.
正直诚信是我在台北市政府工作时候的最高准则。每天早上7点半准时上班，召开晨会，确保市政团队清廉勤政，推动政策不问党派和关系，只问市民利益，落实爱民爱乡土的精神。
My highest level of principles that I was holding when I worked for the Taipei City government was the integrity and honesty. And every morning at 7:30 a.m., I go to the office on time and we hold our morning meetings. And why we're doing so is to ensure that all our teams would uphold these values of the high integrity and diligence. And when we were pushing forward the policies, disregard of any political parties or relationships, we would only focus on the rights and the welfare of our citizens. So that's what we have put into practice, our principle of loving our people and loving the land and its culture.
台湾需要一个理性、务实、科学的政府，在推动政策的时候，倾听人民的声音，尊重专业意见，实践普世价值，为国家制定长期计划，不会因为换人执政就左右摇摆，建立正确的政治文化，让台湾成为联能国家，落实国家治理。
Taiwan is a pragmatic, rational, and scientific government that listens to people's voice and respecting professional opinions and implementing universal values while promoting its policies to formulate long-term plans for the country for the sake of all its people. So there's no longer waivers to back and forth just because someone else or the other party is in the power. We will establish the right political culture so that Taiwan can become an honest country and be able to implement national governance.
自从2000年以后，台湾再没有长期计划。最主要的原因就是两大主要政党为了政党利益，以意识形态煽动仇恨，造成极端政治，使得国家方向忽左忽右。
Has not had a happening is that the two major political parties have been using ideologies to incite hatred for the sake of interest. This resulted in extremist politics polarized and causing the country to drift from left to right.
台湾民众党的出现，是因为台湾人民已经厌恶两党恶斗，希望有理性务实、真正重视人民福祉的第三势力挺身而出，制衡两党。
The emergence of our Taiwan People's Party is due to the fact that most Taiwan people are already getting sick and tired of the vicious struggle between the two major parties. Taiwan's people are hoping that a rational, pragmatic third force, the third power that will truly value the well-being of its people, that will come forward and counterbalance its parties.
台湾应该实行联合政府，我主张执政者应该主动分享权力，用人为才，让各政党可以一起贡献所长来团结台湾。
Taiwan should have a coalition government in place. I advocate that the ruling party should take initiative and share its power to implement meritocracy so that all the political parties can be able to contribute their strengths to unite Taiwan.
另外，台湾的总统制常常被批评为有权无责，无法落实责任政治。要解决这个困境，我主张总统必须依据宪法向立法院进行国情报告。
In addition, Taiwan's presidential system is often being criticized as having power but no responsibility, and it is impossible to implement politics of responsibility. In order to resolve this dilemma, I advocate that the president must be reporting to the legislative yuan in accordance with our constitution and to the state of the nation.
两大党都受困于自身的历史包袱，民进党已经完全失去跟中共的互信。国民党则是对中共过于顺从，都无法解决两岸目前的困境。
We see that the two big parties in Taiwan are trapped by their own historical baggages. The Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, has completely lost the mutual trust with China, with the Chinese Communist government, while we see that the Kuomintang, KMT, is being too submissive to the Chinese Communist government, neither of which can resolve cross-strait disputes.
国家的力量在于国民全体，唯有建立共荣社会，落实国家治理，让社会和谐，组织联合政府团结台湾，让政党和解，让台湾2300万人先有共识，台湾才能与中共展开有意义的对话，建立两岸和平。
The strength of the country lies in the whole nation, and the only way to build an inclusive society is to implement national governance and bring about social harmony. To organize a coalition government, unite Taiwan, and reconcile political parties. Only when the Taiwan's 23 million people reach a consensus and that Taiwan can enter into a meaningful dialogue with the Chinese Communist government, that will allow us to establish cross-strait peace.
我担任台北市长8年，举办过8次的上海、台北双城论坛，更在2017年举办过世界大学运动会。我们秉持5个互相认识、互相了解、互相尊重、互相合作，还有最后的互相谅解，确保对等尊严，增加彼此善意，促进两岸对话，减少冲突危机，创造台海和平。
During my tenure as a Taipei City Mayor, I have hosted a total of 8 Twin City forums between Taipei and Shanghai cities. and also hosted the World University Games, or the Universiade, in 2017. We uphold the 5 mutual principles, meaning the mutual understanding, mutual appreciation, mutual respect, mutual cooperation, and also the mutual acceptance in order to assure reciprocal dignity and to increase our mutual goodwill. And this all allows us to promote cross-strait dialogue, reducing the risk of conflict and creating peace in the Taiwan Strait.
我们会确保台湾人民继续享有民主自由的政治制度和生活方式，备战而不畏战，能战而不求战，以台湾自主、两岸和平的政策，与美国、日本共同维系印太地区的繁荣和稳定。
We will ensure that the people of Taiwan continue to enjoy a free and democratic political system and a way of life, and that they are well prepared for war just in case it comes, but they're not afraid of it. They're able to fight with the capability, but not seeking to fight. And that they maintain the prosperity and stability of the Indo-Pacific region together with Japan and the United States under the policy of Taiwan autonomy and cross-strait peace.
对内，台湾必须自立自强，以政治文化开始来改变国家的体制；对外，与民主世界的伙伴，我们要建立合作关系。日本是台湾在亚洲最重要的盟友，基于过去100多年的互动与交往所建立的深厚友谊之上，全面深化各项合作。
Domestically, Taiwan must be self-reliant and change its national structure from political culture onwards. And externally, in the diplomatic sense, we need to build collaborative and cooperative relationship with our partners in the democratic world. Japan is Taiwan's most important ally in Asia, and we need to deepen our cooperation based on the Kizuna, the deep and mutual bonds we have built over the past 100 years of mutual interaction and engagement.
在李登辉前总统的时代，有明德小组扮演美日台3方高层沟通的平台。未来我们也希望重新建立这样的制度，彼此分享讯息，维护区域的和平。
Under former President Lee Teng-hoi's administration, there was a Mingde group that served as a platform for high-level communication across the United States, Japan, and Taiwan. We hope to reestablish such a system in the future so that we can share information and maintain regional peace.
日本是台湾第3大贸易伙伴，在全球瞩目的战略产业半导体产业有非常密切的合作。我们希望台日双方可以合作，建立更有韧性的产业链，作为世界科技与经济发展做出一个稳定的贡献。
Japan is Taiwan's 3rd largest trading partner, and there is close collaboration in the semiconductor industry, the strategic industry of global importance. In the future, we hope that Taiwan and Japan can work together to build a more resilient industrial chain and make a stable contribution to the world's technology and economic development.
台湾许多中小企业都拥有很好的技术，被称作隐形冠军。未来我们会积极加速制度法规接轨国际，争取加入区域经贸组织，尤其是 CPTPP、RCEP 等区域经贸组织。让优秀企业走向世界，世界走入台湾。
Many small and medium-sized enterprises in Taiwan have excellent technologies and are called the invisible champions in their fields. In the future, we will actively accelerate the integration of systems and regulations with the international community and strive to join regional economic and trade organizations, especially the CPTPP, RCEP, and other regional organizations, so that those outstanding enterprises from Taiwan could go global and to the world. We also allow many outstanding companies to enter Taiwan.
现在大家都说台湾有事，日本有事，美日同盟有事。我希望在未来大家可以说，台湾和平，日本和平，世界和平。
Now everyone's saying is going like, when something happens to Taiwan, it would go over to Japan, and also it would affect the ally between Japan and the United States. My hope is that in the future we can say, we see peace in Taiwan, peace in Asia, and therefore peace in the world. I'm confident that in the future, Taiwan is going to make more positive contributions to global democracy and become a good model of progress in the democratic world.
台湾一直以来都被称为华人世界的民主典范，未来我有信心，台湾可以成为全球民主的进步典范。谢谢大家。
And that is what Taiwan has been called upon all the time as the democratic role model of the Chinese population. And I'm confident that Taiwan is going to make more progressive contributions to the world moving into the future, becoming a good example. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll open up the floor now to questions and answers, please. From the working press. If you could give your name and affiliation and keep your questions short, as we have a lot of people in the room and a number of questions online. Okay, this man here. Yeah.
My name is Kondo from Japanese publishing company Kodansha. And my question is that what's the difference between your 민정당, Kuomintang, Chinese politics between your party and Kuomintang? And do you have a plan to withdraw your candidacy the next presidency and fight with Kuomintang against 民进党？
第一点他问说，台湾民众党在大陆政策上与国民党有什么不一样？简单的讲是这样不只是国民党，其实也跟民进党。第一点台湾还是应当是站在自由世界这一边，所以跟美日的这个合作关系就不会改变。唯有在应对中国的时候，我们跟其他两党的态度上的不一样。民进党是跟大陆完全不沟通，国民党又太顺从，所以我们就想要办法在其中取一个平衡，这第一点。第二点他说我们会不会跟国民党合作去赢得那个选战？这个问题在台湾已经被问了好几个月了我倒觉得是这样的政治并不是说要推翻谁打倒谁，更重要的是我们要给台湾带来一个新的政治。那如果今天所谓的国民党跟民众党之间的合作一直停留在大家怎么分权势怎么分权位，我想这个不会得到台湾人民的支持。那所谓的蓝白合一直到现在为止，我从来没有听过说国民党在政策或是政治的理念价值，它跟民众党到底有没有相合？这个没有解决，你知道每天在讲蓝白合，就会给人民觉得好像在混战，都不会得到台湾人民的支持。
Right. So to answer the first part of your question, you were asking what is the difference between DPP, our party, and KMT. I think that actually also applies across to differentiation with the DPP as well. To me, I would say that we're looking at Taiwan as holding its own independent position, and also across with its peers in the United States and in Japan. And then the difference mainly lies in the attitude towards China. I would say DPP, as I mentioned, it has already banned the channels of communication with China, while on the other hand, we're seeing that KMT, Kuomintang, they're being too submissive to China. That's why our difference and the position we want to take at TPP, at Taiwan People's Party, is why we're trying to find a nice balance, a sweet point of balance across the two. And to answer the second part of your question, you were saying that whether I would potentially withdraw candidacy and join hands with Kuomintang, and in order to fight Minjintang or the DPP. So actually, I've been asked this question whether I will give in to Kuomintang for the past few months in Taiwan. I would say when we're doing this kind of competition and politics all running together for presidency, there's no so-called of giving in or giving up, and I would say that the same could apply to when you're seeing the struggles across Kuomintang and DPP, Minjintang. Because we are seeing that there is no so-called clear-cut difference or in the philosophies or the ideologies being held by Kuomintang versus EPP. On the other hand, over the years, we've just been seeing struggles and arguments across whether they're blue or green. So I think that's the time for like new politics position and standpoints to come up instead of only keep looking at all that fight across.
Okay, any more questions from the floor? Yes.
これ今度台北台湾这边有 sense， 我用中文提到台视新闻特派员宣传方。我们记得俱乐部已经有2位台湾来的总统，一位是卸任总统，一个是现任总统。明年的这个时候，你可能会是第3位总统也说不定。那您这次来访，您的行程排得非常的紧凑，也非常充实。相信您在这一次访日的期间，您一定感受到日本人对台湾有事、日本有事的这件事情非常的关心。您所提到的台湾和平就是世界和平、日本和平，但您要用什么样具体的方式来让台湾维持和平呢？因为台湾现在跟中国大陆已经完全没有互信的关系了。在这样的情况之下，您有什么样的具体的方式呢？而不是宏观的概念，而是更具体的方式能够说明一下吗？谢谢。
Maybe I should translate the question first. So this is from the TWBS. I'm a correspondent from the Taiwan Taishi Xinwen. And actually, you are the third person potentially because there have already been 2 former presidents visiting us here. So potentially next year you may become the third president that's visiting this place. And I see that during your visit this time to Japan, your schedules are really packed, and I see that you got a lot of activities during your stay here. So I think you could maybe feel that during your stay that Japanese people are really concerned about whether anything is going to happen to Taiwan in terms of peace, and they closely feel that that could be in letter to what's going on in Japan as well. So I'm just wondering, what do you think are the hands-on way or measures that you can put in place to keep the peace of Taiwan? I am not talking about like macro concepts or those bigger ideas, but talking about what are the actual hands-on things you think Taiwan can do to keep peace, because we're seeing that the mutual dialogues or channels for communication with the China government has already been closed out. So please advise if you think there are any concrete measures.
日本有事，台湾有事，日本有事的理由非常简单，因为日本超过90%的能源必须通过台湾的附近海域来到日本，所以日本本来就非常关心台湾的安全。那么如何促进台海和平？几个原则第一点我还是同意所谓的贺主的战略，意思就是说，一个国家的安危不可能完全寄托在另外一个国家的善意上面，所以台湾在国防自主上面一定要达到相当的程度。可以让对方觉得说，这个攻打台湾的代价太大，所以 deterrence 这个字，我在1个月前访问美国的时候，这个字是在美国高层用最多的一个字，叫 deterrence， 翻译成中文叫嚇阻。所以台湾必须有足够的国防力量，是第一点。第二点，在这个基础之上，我们愿意跟中国对谈。那常常是这样的有人说，关系都不好了，为什么要谈呢？我倒觉得倒过来爱的相反之不是恨，爱的相反之是冷漠。所以有时候就是越是争吵才反而要谈。那我过去当台北市长的时候，举办过8次的双城论坛，其实每一次也是都在幕后还是有很多的争议但是透过一次又一次的沟通以后，其实到一个程度上，双方也建立一定程度的互信了。我想这是一个例子，就是说，所以回答你的话，2个重点，一个是要维持国防自主，要维持嚇阻的力量；第二，还是要设法沟通。
Right. To answer your question, I think it's no surprise that it's all penetrating and well understood about the concept of when something happens to Taiwan, Japan would not stay out of the game. And I think this is natural because 90% of the energy supply coming into Japan is going through the Taiwan Strait anyway, so there's no surprise that anything affecting the peace would affect Japan too. And talking about how to keep peace in the Taiwan Strait, I think there are two important points. The first point I would say, I also heard it very much times during my visit to the United States, is deterrence. I think it's important for Taiwan to have its own national defense being well established and to hold a certain ability, because that would help to defend and help to stop provoking the other party from trying to attack or come to war with Taiwan if you have a certain level of the national defense well established. So that's number one. And number two is, I think still the mutual dialogues with China would be very much appreciated to enhance the peace, because I think you may say, well, the relationship is not really looking good and we're having the dialogues close out, why do we still want to talk? But I think it's the opposite. If you want to make any advancement or change the relationship, it's crucial for you to have a mutual conversation. During my tenure as a Taipei City mayor, I've held 8 sessions in total of the Twin City Forum between Shanghai and Taipei. And of course, in the backside of that, we got many struggles and many arguments too, but eventually we had advancement made in understanding each partner, our counterpart, and to have a better mutual trust. So I think that is one of the examples of how to establish better relationship and peace through the mutual communication.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask a question from online, and then I'll come back to the floor. This is from Martin Korling at Handelsblatt, a German newspaper. He's asking, how do you see the current China under Xi Jinping? Some see China as an increasingly ultra-nationalistic and oppressive dictatorship that is preparing to fight a war and to unify with Taiwan. Others think that this is a distorted view and see China as a rising power that does not, unlike Western powers, does not have the same history of imperialism. How do you see the PRC in general and its intentions via Taiwan in particular?
好，那现在收到一条是网上的查询，然后是我们德国报纸 Handelsblatt 的记者 Martin Korling 他问的问题。他想请教，就是我们柯主席对我们现在中国的习近平底下的政权有什么看法？因为我们西方媒体的看法的话呢，有些人觉得他是独裁者，就是已经准备好要随时可以开始打仗，开始战争。然后有一些媒体又觉得，其实这个感觉是有点歪曲了对他正确的评论。然后我们应该是中国为一个就是正在上升的新兴，然后一个新的国际势力。然后中国也没有就是说欧美国家以前有的这种帝国主义的背景。所以他的问题是想看看，就是您对这个中国现在目前的政府有什么看法？
这个问题也是常常被讨论的。我想有一个很重要关键，不可以把目前的习近平政府视为是永久的中国。这个就好像我每次都引用温家宝的话，温家宝总理的话，中国在经济改革的成就，如果在政治改革没有追上来的话，最后这经济改革的成就也会丧失了。所以我从来不认为说中国可以一方面维持一个很强劲的经济成长，然后政治上完全维持在这种比较不进步的状态下，我觉得这不可能长期维持住。所以，事实上我在1个月前访问美国的时候，在美国国务院的讨论当中，这一点我认为我是跟美国政府最大不同点的。我也问了一个题目，我说如果我们都相信普世价值，为什么认为中国永远不会有民主自由？所以我就跟美国政府讲说 ，Never give up to transform China。我们还是认为，如果我们相信软实力，我们相信普世价值，为什么我们认为说中国不会改变？所以结论是这样的。第一，不要把目前的习近平统治下的中国视为是未来永远的中国。我认为中国还是会改变，因为经济上的成就，如果没有政治上同样的进步，这个系统是不稳定的。再来，我们还是要相信普世价值，要相信软实力。我们应该协助中国进入文明的社会。
Right. I think this question is being asked quite often, and I think I want to make 2 points in my response to this. One is we hear this very often, but I don't think the current Xi Jinping's leadership in China is going to be the forever situation in China. So we had other leaders in China too previously, when Yu Jiabao and so on, all the ex-leaders in China. And I think if eventually China's government don't make reformation in its political system and not making advancement in that, although China is achieving in its economic advancement, it would eventually face a downtime. So it would not last for long without advancement in the political side as well. And about a month ago when I visited the United States and I was talking to the people in the Parliament and the Senate as well, we're also discussing about China's problem. And this is the point that I made to them. I was saying that if we all believe that we share universal values across the world, then why would we not believe that China one day would be able to have democracy in its hands? And I told them to never give up. So these are the 2 points. And the first point is, again, we should not see the current Xi Jinping's its management as a forever status quo in China, and we could hope for further improvements as China may have further changes. And number 2 point is if we believe in using the universally shared values and also soft power, and we can still have hopes for future changes to China towards democracy or coming into a world of democracy.
Okay, thank you. Any more from the floor? This gentleman here.
Nishimura, Hokkaido Shimbun. Thank you very much. In the article of Asahi Shimbun this morning, which was the interview to you, you mentioned the possibility of having the trilateral security talks between Taiwan, Japan, and United States. And could you tell me what is your specific idea of that framework? For example, how frequent, yearly or more frequent, or which level? Top leaders level, or minister level, or senior official level? Thank you very much.
现在这位是北海道新闻的西村先生提问，他是说，看到今天早上朝日新闻有一个报道，就是说，我们柯主席提到的，就是我们可以寻求3方面谈的一个机会，就是这种互相对话有关于台湾、日本还有就美国之间的。我想知道有关于一个详细点的计划，就是比如说您觉得这个频度需要多频密呢？就是每年对话1次就可以了吗？然后就是哪一个层面的对话会比较适合呢？这是我们比如说每年1次是我们国家领导人的水平吗？还是说就是大臣或者是部门部长的这种部长级的对话，或者说在下一层的这种对话交流会比较有用呢？
这个美日台那个国安层面的沟通平台啊，这个不是我发明的，这是李登辉总统在当总统时候的，当时因应台海危机的模式。第一点它是美国、日本跟台湾每个月轮流做工，参加的人原则上都是国安高层的。那在地主国通常这个总统都有参加，所以他讲过，当时在台湾举办的话，李总统有时候会参加。在日本当时是桥本龙太郎，那在美国至少是国务院的国务卿会参加。那他是1个月举办1次，其实他真正的目的是说，在危机的时候，做一个比较密集的沟通，而且是在高层面的，有问题可以很快有效率的处理。还有一点是这样，因为毕竟台湾跟日本这种文化沟通比跟美国还更容易，所以通常是当台湾跟日本都有共识的时候，就更容易说服美国3方一起有共识。这是针对他的回答。
So I believe this trilateral security talk that you're mentioning about, actually what I suggested was not my original idea. It was back in the ex-president's time when Li Denghui, he actually adopted this mold of having the mutual conversations across Taiwan, Japan, and U.S. as a close group. And speaking of the level, I would say that we're talking about the national leaders. So at the time of ex-president Li Denghui, it was having himself, and back then we got Ryutaro Hashimoto as the Japan's president, and then the United States, it will be the top of the Senate and of the National Defense Department. So it was a very close loop conversation and was held on a monthly basis. So to allow when anything is happening across the countries or global securities, they could efficiently exchange their opinions and make quick decisions. And in this aspect, I would say Japan and Taiwan are very much culturally close. So once Japan and Taiwan could arrive at consensus on certain matters, it also makes it easier to convince the United States to be on the same line with us.
Okay, thank you. Okay, another question online here. This is from my colleague Thompson Chow in Taipei. He's saying Taiwan has focused a lot of its diplomacy on Russia's invasion of Ukraine over the past year, but in contrast, the ongoing crackdown in Hong Kong and the Myanmar's post-coup crisis have fallen off the radar. If elected president, will you step up support for the Hong Kong people who have moved or want to move to Taiwan, and how? And also, when the Burmese military is still actively killing civilians and persecuting elected politicians, will Taiwan, under your leadership, refuse to recognize the junta's planned election?
我们现在又收到一条网上提问的问题，这是我的同事，我们日经新闻在台北的Thompson Chan他问的问题。他是说看见台湾就是最近在俄罗斯攻击乌克兰的态度上就是很支持我们维持和平，就是有一个比较强硬的态度。但是相比之下呢，我们看见比如说香港的问题，或者是缅甸这边也是军政府攻击平民的这一些举动呢，我们就没有看到台湾有什么强烈的表态。所以我想知道，如果您当选总统的话，您会就是比如说有一些具体的政策吗？比如说帮助如果有一些香港人想要移居到台湾，会有什么样的政策可以支援他们呢？或者是说缅甸的话，这个缅甸军政府继续攻击平民，或者是现在他们政权您会对他们政权表现出一种明显的就是对立的态度来谴责他们这种就是杀害平民的行为呢？
第一点在香港反送中事件的时候，当时的台湾政府是相当明确的表态。那当时我是在担任台北市长，为了这个，我们在市政府还有开专案小组，就是如何协助香港人移民到台湾来。据我所知，在2019年，香港到台湾移民人大概接近1万人，好像详细数字是9000多一点。所以事实上，台湾在香港受到压迫的时候，并没有置身事外，他是有明确的表达意见的。而且当时在台湾，特别是在年轻人，是政府的这个举动是高度受到年轻人支持的。那台湾政府在当时也有具体的协助香港人移民到台湾。那如果面对缅甸这种事情，我倒觉得这样，如果我们相信普世价值的话，我们应该还是要表达说，我们对这种压迫的、对人民的压迫，还是要表示谴责。
Right, so to this question, first of all, regarding Hong Kong, I think when we're facing those situations in Hong Kong and forcing many Hong Kongers wanting to immigrate to Taiwan, Taiwan did show a clear-cut attitude as the government. And I believe back then in the city government of Taipei, we were also establishing a dedicated project team to handle this matter. Back then, in 2019, there was about 10,000 Hong Kongers who wished to move to Taiwan and actually took their action. And I think last year it was about more than 9,000 people, etc. So on a yearly basis. So therefore, I would say Taiwan did make its position clear that it's supporting the Hong Kongers if they wish to get out of Hong Kong and move to Taiwan. And this kind of move is also being highly supported by the young people, especially in Taiwan, to seeing the government taking action to support the Hong Kongers. And to the second point about the military killings in Myanmar, as I mentioned, if we're upholding all the universal values that we see as important, this kind of act of killing civilians should absolutely be denied.
Okay, yes, please.
Hello, Gabriel Dominguez from the Japan Times. You mentioned that as part of your peace plan, you don't only want to reinforce Taiwanese defense capabilities, but also engage in dialogue with China, because this is crucial. Now, to which extent would you do that? How exactly could you explain, how exactly would you engage China as compared to, say, the Kuomintang? How would you engage China?
主持人你好，我是 Japan Times Gabriel。然后我现在这个问题是想听听您具体的就是打算是怎么样跟中方打开对话，因为您多次提到就是这个有互相对话的重要性，就是要解决台海问题，我们不能够单方的去行动。然后我想知道就是有多不同的，比如说在国民党政权之间，他们与中方对话的这种方式，跟您未来有可能会实行的这种方式。会有什么不同？然后会就是对话到怎么样的层面，或者是有什么具体的行动呢？
第一点我们先从历史里面找答案。国民党跟大陆的沟通，你知道为什么会失败？2014年的太阳花学运就是一个例子。因为当人民不相信国民党的时候，国民党在跟大陆的沟通就不会成功了。所以我常强调说互信跟 credit， 就是说你跟中国之间，你知道有没有彼此的信任的第一点。第二点，这个 credit 实在太重要了。所以我在8年跟大陆打交道的过程，包括4大运，我都保持一个说，我们绝对不耍小手段，绝对保持诚信。那这个需要互信是需要时间建立。所以回答你的话。国民党会失败是国民党跟大陆沟通会失败，是因为他已经失去人民的信任。那主要就是因为当时这种开放的过程当中，你知道那些开放的好处要变得会怎样？被太多国民党的这种人你知道拿去了，而广大的台湾人民没有受益。所以这个就是为什么国民党会失去台湾人民的信任，这是一个很大的原因。所以说，大家都买办文化，这第一点。第二点就是说，这也是民进党跟大陆之间，就是说，今天已经当双方都没有互信的时候，还有一个是在华人世界里面有一个很特殊的文化，也许西方国民不太了解，叫做面子。今天民进党跟共产党的问题，很多已经牵涉到面子问题，所以双方都僵持不下来。所以再讲一遍，就是说。互信跟 credit， 这是2个很重要的因素。当你失去这2样的时候，根本没有办法就跟中国做有意义的交谈。
Right. To your question, I would say history is giving us part of the answer or hint to the answer. Why Kuomintang at their times during their rule couldn't build a successful conversation or relationship with China was that especially around the time of 2013 and 2014, the people in Taiwan were losing their trust in Kuomintang because they were trying to have this conversation and opening up the market to the mainland China, but eventually that did not come to success. I think there are 2 important things. One is we need to build a true mutual trust between the 2 sides. And the other thing is you need to also be creative and trying to really solve the problem. In my 8 years of experience as a Taipei mayor, and I was also handling the organization of the 29th University Act, and organizing those international activities also involving China. one important principle I was upholding was that we never play around in the background with small tricks, meaning we're really open and hold high integrity in the communication we're having with China. And it takes time to build trust. So, but we were able to do those successful events, so I think that's a story we have learned. And so the point why Kuomintang didn't have the true success in the building relationship in China was that it started to lose the trust of Taiwan people. And when it gets some advantages from opening up to China, it actually takes away most of the advantages and benefits that were brought about from that better relationship. And the people of Taiwan didn't really get much of it. And that's why it was losing the trust of its people. And let's look at the other party, DPP, Democratic Progress Party, or Kuomintang. And they, as previously mentioned, already lose the mutual trust relationship with mainland China. And I think why they couldn't make any change to that status quo was that it may be hard for Westerners to understand, but in the world of Chinese people, there's a concept of 面子, or we want to hold our face. So due to what is already being said in the history or the previous conversations, both sides refused to open up or have a frank and open conversation because of what they have already said before, and they want to hold their face. So that's why it's sort of a frozen or very strict relationship as for now. So that's how I see it. So I think, again, mutual trust is very important, and we try to bring in some creativity to change the situation.
Just a quick follow-up question from me. Should you become elected as president of Taiwan, would you seek a meeting with Xi Jinping?
目前没有啊，还有觉得我说要先决定战略，再决定战术，再决定战斗。所以做事情要有目的。所以请问我跟习近平谈现在目的是什么？这个还没确定之前。谈也没有用，所以最后这沦为表演，为了谈而谈。
Right. So to this question, frankly speaking, I don't have any plans to have direct conversation with President Xi Jinping at this moment. And it's based on the principle that I always mention. I think we need to always start from strategy, going to actual hands-on tactics, and then going to the actual fight if we need to be on a fight, for example. So I think without any concrete agenda, what exactly we have to discuss with Xi Jinping, I think I will not be ready to schedule a meeting, because the first thing is we need to have a clear agenda on what exactly we'll want to discuss and what's the purpose of that conversation.
Okay, another question here from online from Richard Lloyd Parry of The Times. He says Western media coverage of Taiwan is dominated by the tensions across the Taiwan Strait. But how much do ordinary Taiwanese people care about relations with Beijing? Are they equally or perhaps more concerned with the economy and the cost of living?
好的，主席，现在我要说到一个网上的问题，这是 Times 纽约时报的这个不是纽约，就是 Times 的记者是 Richard Lloyd Parry 他的问题是说，我们西方的媒体或者西方的眼光来看台海的关系呢，最主要还是看就是中台之间的这个局势比较对我们来说还是重点。那我想知道一般台湾人民他们的重点会放在哪里呢？就是与我们西方同样是非常重视这个台海关系这个局势的问题吗？还是说看对与中方关系，台湾一般人民会比较在意就是民生问题，比如说经济上有什么影响啊之类的呢？
在去年8月美国众院议长裴洛西访问台湾的时候，后来我们就发现全世界都很紧张，不紧张的是台湾人民。所以我们也在研究这个问题他觉得这样，我们老百姓固然会接受说在现阶段被中国大陆统治，可是我们忘记一件事情，和平是要有代价。所以我常觉得我们目前台湾人民的确忧患意识太少，这是的确是我们的问题。那原因之一是因为政府可能为了选票上的考量，所以刻意把这个忧患意识压低了，因为怕说因为引起大家太多的注意会影响选票。所以刚才这个记者问的题目的确有点到我们 台湾社会一个实际的问题，就是说，他明明是很紧张，可是台湾人民都太缺少忧患意识，这是我们内部要去注意的地方。
Right. I can take an example as a response to this question. In last year's August, when Hiroshi, the head of Senate from the United States, was visiting Taiwan, the whole world was very excited about her visit. The only people not excited was people living in Taiwan. So then we were studying this issue and seeing why then are the Taiwan people not really caring about it. And I think we're not seeing even big reaction in the Taiwan people as to one day they may eventually come under the China communist rule. But why they're not excited or not concerned about it at all was perhaps they're forgetting that there's no free lunch. To have peace, there must be something that you need to pay off or trade off at the background. I think Taiwan and people sort of is lacking this sense of alert in the political matters across the strait. And I also think that one of the reasons could be contributed by the governments that have been running for the vote, because they don't want too much attention and the cross-strait relationship that may reduce people's focus or attention on giving votes to them. So they just don't want the influence to the vote, and that's why. So I think this question from Richard just now was very to the point, pointing out this was sort of a loophole in the attitude of Taiwan people. There could be room for us to reinvestigate and look into Taiwan people's attitude to have a higher level of awareness or alert in this kind of matters.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Anyone from the floor? In Chinese, English, or Japanese? It's okay. Yes, sir.
My name is Yasuo Tanaka from Sankei Shimbun. Can I ask about your Chinese policy again? And you advocate dialogue with China. It sounds good, but the Chinese Communist Party set a strict precondition of the dialogue, and that is the acceptance of the one China principle. And you have advocated cross-strait belong to the same family, and do you think that is enough for CCP accept the advocate of your dialogue? And on the other hand, Taiwanese people become more powerful identity of Taiwanese. You're advocating the cross-strait belong to the same family. Will be accepted in Taiwanese society?
主席您好，我是产经新闻的，我是亚史唐纳卡田中。然后我这个问题也是有关于对中国的政策然后我觉得您说就是对话很重要，这听起来当然是很好的，就是尝试进行上方的对话。但是我也知道，就是中方共产党政府他们设定的条件也是相当严苛的。首先，您必须要认同这个一个中国的政策，才能对话。然后我也知道您提倡两岸一家亲的概念，然后我想知道呢，这个两岸一家亲的概念是否就能让中共政府接受，然后愿意去进行双方的对话呢？然后再来就是台湾人民会接受这个两岸一家亲的概念嘛？因为当然他们有自己的，就是作为台湾人的核心价值观。然后如果我们推进这个两岸一家亲的话，他们会有这种所谓就是自我价值或者是这种定位的危机吗？
第一点这个所谓3个条件呢，就是一个中国、9·2共识跟1国2制。现在中国大陆常常会讲说，如果民进党不接受，他就不跟他谈。后来我才发现，真正的理由是共产党根本不想跟他谈，所以提出了一个他一定不会接受的条件。那就我个人办过8次双城论坛跟4大运的经验，中国固然有他的坚持，但是我们也要试着去说服他，就是说，像第一点呢，我们没有正面否定你，但是 也要让他，所以我当时为什么提出5个互相？5个互相里面哦，互相认识、互相了解、互相尊重、互相合作。其实最后那个最难叫互相谅解。我们要让对方知道说，你有你的困难，我也有的困难。那如果你坚持这个，那后面根本都没得谈。所以是不是我们可以换个方法来处理？所以所谓对话，对话就是说，我想跟你谈，但是能不能彼此谅解一下？那两岸一家亲这个是这样的，所以有时候我们要求对方谅解的时候，有时候也要倒过来，要跟台湾人民解释的，所以要跟他要试着说服他们说，试图说服台湾人民说，一家亲还是比一家仇好，这个交流比断流好，对话比对抗好。还有一点呢，他开始很务实的跟台湾人民讲说，我们目前43%的外销是到中国，那一年是对中国出超1000亿美金的。然后我们在台湾本岛内有38万的陆配，就所谓大陆性。同样的，我们有超过到底有多少台人在大陆？我认为不会少于100万。所以当双方关系这么密切的时候，我们是不是能够务实一点来想说我们要怎么处理这个问题？所以结论是这样啊，互相谅解不仅要对方要求对方谅解，其实有时候也要转过头来跟台湾人民讲说，我们的确有事实上的一些困难需要处理。所以我说，我认为互相谅解是我在跟中国大陆来往的时候，才可以走下去一个很重要的原因。
Right. So this question, I think, as you mentioned, there were some strict conditions being raised by China's side. For example, the 1992 consensus, and also to accept that the one country concept, otherwise they wouldn't be open to further conversations. But there are also some people saying that, in fact, there was just some sort of upholding values to go against the DPP of Taiwan, so to set those higher bars and say, look, if DPP are not accepting, we're not going to talk. It was just because in the background, China doesn't even want to have the conversation with the DPP. So that was done on purpose. So some were saying that. And speaking of how I look at this, to have the mutual conversation with China, from my experience holding 8 sessions of the Twin City Forum of the Taipei Shanghai, and also holding the 29th University Act, under those experience of organizing the activities, there are, of course, certain points that China's side would insist on, but we persistently try to convince them. So I think there's no easy way across, but that's why I was setting the 5 mutual principles for our communications. And as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about our mutual understanding, the mutual penetration, mutual respect, and mutual cooperation. But I think the most important thing is to have the true mutual understanding. And in order to break through that, I think we need to change to a different approach as needed. Meaning, of course, we need to have the mutual understanding or sort of empathize the other party in order to open up the conversation. But it's also time to take a step back and explain to people within your country why you have to have those conversations. As I mentioned before, it's always better to have the two sides as one family rather than hatred, building hatred, or treating ourselves as enemies. It's always better to have mutual conversation rather than shutting down the doors or channels for communication. And it's always better to have our mutual discussion rather than to fight against each other. So that's why I think looking at what are the pragmatic problems or issues we're facing across the strait. Actually, we hear about having mainland Chinese women married to Taiwanese and living in Taiwan. There are about 380,000 of them. And on the other flip side, I would say there are perhaps more than 1 million people, actually Taiwanese now currently living and working in mainland China. So given that we have such a large portion of people living in each side and sharing close bonds, it's really an intimate relationship, I would say. And that's why we have to be pragmatic. We have to pursue our mutual understanding, and not only demanding the other side to look, open up and have the conversation, but also to convince people of your own country that you're facing such pragmatic issues, and that's why a conversation is needed.
你刚才那个谅解是用哪种字翻译？谅解。对，不是。坦白讲我去美国的时候就一直发现这个字很难翻成英文。谅解，我是找不到适当的字，所以为什么美国就听不懂这个字 ？empathy， 想啊，这个在座的记者有没有更精确的字可以把谅解翻成英文？大家想想看。
Right. This question was about that original word was 谅解. That's like mutual understanding, and you mutual. I use empathize in part of the translation because I just wanted to differentiate with the other words and the mutual principles. But it's actually kind of hard to translate that into English. And according to experience in U.S., we couldn't find a very good word. So it's asking for any opinions from our reporters here. Anyone have a good idea of how to translate this Chinese word of 谅解 into English? What would be perhaps a better word than empathize or understand?
这个字什么意思呢？为什么讲这个？台湾比世界更了解中国，台湾比中国更了解世界。所以为什么有时候？希望世界在跟中国打交道会踢到铁板，因为的确有很多字是，就是那个同一个文化才有办法了解说那个字是什么意思，但跨过文化之后就是很难沟通。
And why I'm bringing this translation thing up is because I think it also applies to our relationship across Taiwan, China, and the rest of the world. So I think Taiwan has a better understanding of China compared to the rest of the world, and then we can look, we can understand better through these different perspectives. But there are many words. Taking this 谅解as one of the examples, that sometimes it's difficult to translate across the cultures. And when we're trying to translate, sometimes you don't 100% convey the true meaning in that original language.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, we're going to wind up the press conference here, and I'll give you a 1-year free membership of the club. Please step back. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Take care now.
我活在自己的世界，我望着空白微亮的星空。他们看我像一个白痴，我也觉得自己白痴的可以。我不是那个聪明漂亮的，那个厉害无畏无惧无自觉的傻子，我只会做简单的事，就这样一直做。曾经有多少次我怀疑自己，曾经不争气的流下了泪滴。别人觉得我怪，但我知道我不怪，这明明就只是我。我是个小草。